SkannerXT is one of those often overlooked plugins that you probably popped open once if you even own it, unlike I do, as you can see here. And you heard the default patch, which sounded like this. You decided it was just another cheesy synth and didn't use it after that point, but I'm here to change your mind because it can do one other cool sound as well. We're on the clock. Let's see if we can do it. Again, by default, the default patch isn't so great, but if you go into the SFX section, load up like any one of these laser glider presets, it'll sound like this. What you heard at the start there was actually the sample that's being used from the sampler engine. It sounds like this. It's like really weird, like a glitched out vocal sample or something. I don't know. But the source sample actually doesn't really matter that much because if you tab over the B tab here, you can see it like mixes in some oscillators and does a bunch of processing and just turns it into something else. And the really interesting thing is if you enable the preset morpher in the middle here, this is where all the action is. So it has a preset in each one of these 8 slots. I'll give you a quick listen to each of them. They're kind of cool, but also, again, kind of cheesy. Where the magic happens is if you click around this preset morpher while it's currently playing, you'll hear the morphing in action. And that's with the speed set to 100, so it's instantly morphing between them. If you turn it down a little bit. That's where the good stuff is. And you can even get like variations by performing certain gestures. So let's say I want to go between patches 1, 2, and 6. If you just repeat that pattern, you can get sort of variations on similar sounds. And you can even use this global LFO, maybe turn it down a little bit, and you can map it to the position. So it like morphs on its own and allows you to click around at the same time, which is really cool. And it's just got like so much movement going on. Unfortunately, a lot of these patches have like reverb and delay baked into them, so I'll usually counteract that. Oh, and like some filtering as well. So I'll counteract that by adding like Unveil Unfilter and Gulfos after it, and then just like letting that ride and record a long buffer with both of those going. So over here, I've done exactly that. This is just a long format recording of me messing around. I'll let you listen to a couple snippets, but it's pretty much the same stuff. And I just love all the movement that's going on there. So what I'll typically do after that is stack some more processing on top. That'll increase that movement and just add some more interesting modulation. So I have 2 main modulators going on here. The first one is the Saturn patch, which I call Megasmudge. And that's because each one of these bands is set to the smudge distortion type. It's under effects. And they're all set slightly differently on the drive setting. But what's more interesting is that each one has an XLFO, which is effectively set to random because each of these are random steps. So it's randomly modulating the feedback frequency. They'll have a little bit of feedback as well. The drive amount, the bipolar modulation, and also the crossover, frequency crossover bands as well. You can see those moving around a little bit. And the smudge sound on its own sort of gives it this like comb filtery, short, clicky delay sort of sound. It goes like this. Yeah, without. And then with. You see what I'm talking about there. And the cool thing about all these random sources is you can just stack I've done this before, but you stack the same patch on top of itself, so just a second instance, but because of all the random modulation, it's effectively like doubling the scrambling that's happening. And that on its own is pretty cool, but I want more. So in this case, I put Triad on top of it, and this is another one of my sort of like multiband scrambulator sort of setups. In each one of the 3 bands, all I have is this granulator plugin, and the main parameters here that I'm interested in are grain size, speed, and rate. And along the bottom here, I have 3 chaos generators, the red, blue, and yellow ones. And you can sort of see here, I have them each hooked up to the 3 parameters across the 3 instances so that one instance of the granulator has 3 different chaos sources for each of those 3 parameters. So like this one has yellow, red, blue, and this one has blue, yellow, red, and this one has red, blue, yellow. So in effect, that gives you like a lot of variation, and you can see all the parameters dancing around seemingly in a very uncorrelated way. And I also have just 2 sine LFOs modulating the crossovers again, and yeah, they're like different rates out of phase with each other. And that has this effect. We'll listen without the Saturns. It's got just a ton of variation to it, and it really depends on what little snippets happen to get caught inside the grain buffers. So with the Saturns and that stacked on top of each other, I'm just going to do one more thing, which is add an OTT to bring the level up because some of the dynamics get lost. You can hear it just like takes the whatever movement was present in the original sound and just like accentuates it tenfold. And then from there, I might even put Traveler on top of it to give it some more useful shapes, like an impact. Or just a whoosh. Oh, and on top of that, I just had a Pro L boosting it by 20 dB, which is a lot, to be fair. But again, it's because a lot of the dynamics get lost with the processing in between. So this is just to slam it again. And I'll even mess around with like Manipulator after that to get some more variation. Maybe even M ratio to cut back on some of the noise and recenter to bring it back up to center. And maybe even another OTT, because why not? It has like a lot of organic movement to it that's difficult to replicate or even paint in with modulation by hand. So I went ahead and I did a bunch of like fooling around with that and then recorded some snippets that I really liked. And then I went ahead and made a little design sound out of all those recordings. Because the focus of this video isn't really on design itself. I'm not going to narrate through it, but I'll show you all the layers in the processing to play out. And then this is all those lead-in layers combined. And then all the impact layers. This one's actually pretty cool, so I'll talk over it. I have shade going on with a low pass filter here, and the frequency of that low pass filter is being automated right here to like sort of sweep down and then back up to give it this effect. Pretty sweet, and it's mixed in at 85% up here. If it was at 100%, it'd be like this. Just maybe a bit extreme. I still want a little bit of that high end to leak through. And you know what? The pacing of that maybe feels a little bit too cramped. So I'm just going to try grabbing that whole sound, and then let's just drag it down to like 0.75. See what that sounds like. It's actually not too bad. It feels a little less cramped, like the elements have more room to breathe. I'm just going to put Unfilter on it because my session's at 48K and we just stretched it out. So top end's getting shorn off a little bit. So this will just recover a little bit of that. Yeah, not half bad. Maybe a little bit busy and gratuitous, but you know, it's whatever.